Welcome to another episode of the Harvest series, where we dive into conversations that nurture growth, authenticity, and transformation. Today, I'm honored to be joined by Adam Roa, poet, speaker, coach, and someone who inspires countless individuals to embrace their true selves. Adam, in this episode, we're exploring courage, the courage to be yourself, the courage to shine, and the courage to show up fully in relationships. These are topics that that touch every aspect of your lives, and I can't wait to hear your unique perspective. So let's uncover the fears that hold us back, the mechanism of transformation, and how we can give ourselves permission to shine. Hello, Adam, and welcome to this podcast.
Hi, Rose. Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Thank you so much. So, first question, because Harvest, this main Kaplankaya, the theme is going to be courage, as you know, and I wanted to interview you through this prism and ask you, does it take courage to be truly yourself, and why so many struggle about this?
100% it takes courage to be yourself because we fear rejection, right? Just pretty much every human being on the planet has some level of fear of being rejected, being ostracized, being outcast. And that dates back to our biology of if we were outcast from the tribe, it was paramount to death. So there's this deep ingrained desire to be accepted inside all of us. And when we are authentic, when we are really ourselves, when we have that courage to show up in that way, the rejection is that much worse. If it happens, the rejection is that much worse because they're rejecting our true self. They're actually rejecting us, not the character that we're playing.
How do you find the courage when you feel a bit depressed or hopeless, when you're really down?
Well, I think that courage is built up over time. You know, in this era of social media, it's very difficult to remember that people who you look up to, the role models, the people that you aspire to be like, they didn't get there overnight. And yet we're seeing the highlight reels, we're seeing their results. We're not necessarily seeing the journey. And so for me, in my own life, courage was something that I had to build up little by little by little. And as I had one win here and another win there, I could sort of piece together more confidence. And as you get more confidence, you are able to take bigger risks because you have a deep ingrained belief that it'll be okay. At the end of the day, you'll be okay because you have enough evidence now that supports that.
Was it very or little uncomfortable? And do you have memories to share about this?
Well, I mean, I guess it would start for me as when I was entering into high school. So when I was entering into high school, I was very late. I was a very late bloomer. And what that meant was everyone else around me was growing and starting to date. And my guy friends had interest from girls. And that just wasn't where I was at. And as a result, I felt like I didn't really belong. I felt as though I wasn't the cool kid. I wasn't physically desirable, all of these stories that were playing in my head. And so then it became about thinking, who do I need to be? What is the character I need to play? How does this game work in order for me to be successful, to achieve whatever those goals were at the time? And by the time I graduated high school, I joke that I won high school. Like all of the awards and the things, I won it all. I had an academic scholarship to college. I was varsity in multiple sports. I was president of this, student body this. And then I won Homecoming King. And Homecoming King, for people who might not be familiar, is sort of prom king. It's like just a popularity contest. Everyone in the school votes.
Okay.
And in American movies, you see all of these movies and TV shows where the homecoming king is the coolest guy in school, and he's so popular, and all the girls want to date him, and he just has everything, right? And when I did that and I won, I woke up the next morning and nothing had shifted. Nothing had shifted. My emotional experience, I still had so much angst and confusion and insecurity. And the worst part was that I didn't actually have something that I thought would get rid of it. Because previously I thought if you won high school, then you'll be happy. And that wasn't the case. But I had played this character, and I had hit a mountaintop, and I was it was hollow. And so that was when I really started to ask myself the question, what truly makes me happy? Who am I when I'm not trying to like play into this external game? And the next check, because there's so many levels to that game, because the next game was go to college, graduate with honors, and get a career job, and then you get married and you have a house and you have a dog and you have three kids, and right, it's all the American dream.
Was it
And
the plan for you?
oh yeah, I wanted to be married in my early 20s. It's like I had the dream of marrying my high school sweetheart and having kids, and by 30 years old we'd have a whole family, the whole thing. And for me, because of that first mountaintop and finding it so unfulfilling, I began to question the next one and the next one and the next one. And I began to look inward and ask myself what actually makes me happy. And I think our on a path to authenticity, the first question we need to ask ourselves is what makes us happy? What brings us joy? Instead of trying to figure out, well, who am I really? That's a really big question, and it's ever
Yeah.
evolving. But we can find the evidence in the things that bring us joy.
Wow, that's very good. So that's what you did after school, after being the, what is it, the home returning king?
Homecoming
Oh,
king. Yeah,
homecoming
I
king.
realized that what I loved was acting, because I had loved acting as a kid in school plays. And I had stopped acting when I was going into high school because I thought it wasn't realistic. I wasn't a leading man. So what was I going to do acting anymore? And I stopped. But then when I got back to college, when I went to college, I was soul searching, and I started taking acting classes in college, and I fell in love with it again. And it actually saved my life because I was so emotionally shut down that acting gave me a outlet. It gave me a pressure release valve for my emotions that were so bottled up. And ultimately, I made the decision to move out to Los Angeles and pursue an acting career. And that sort of was the first big, like really big act of courage where I said, I'm saying no to the safe path and I'm following my heart.
Wow. So you had the feeling you had to say no or to say yes to something.
Well, I think they're one and the same. Every time we say no to something, we're saying yes to something else, and every time we say yes to something, we're saying no to everything else. A lot of times that can be scary because oftentimes when we say no, we're saying yes to something we can't see yet.
Yeah.
And so when you say no to the relationship and you know it's time to break up, when you say no to the job that you're working and you want to just go off and travel, you don't actually know what is on the other side of that journey, but you're saying yes to something. And I don't think you can have a yes without a no, or a no without a yes.
So how to find when you have a kind of no, but you're in a comfortable situation. It could be like in a relationship or in a job. Like you're quite comfortable and you invested a lot in your relationship or in your job, but you find you can feel something. There is like a no, a bigger something bigger is calling you. How do you find your yes?
Well, I feel as if there are so many people that don't take the first step because they want to see steps 2 and 3 and 4 because it feels safer. It's like, oh, I know what'll happen after this and then after this. But oftentimes you can't see step 2 because it's around a corner. And you can't see step 3 because it's over this hill. But I believe that the universe always gives you step 1. The universe is always leaving you breadcrumbs, and that next step might be a very difficult decision to leave your safety nest. It might be leaving the relationship, leaving the city you grew up in, moving out of home, moving away from your friends, whatever that is. That's the next step. And until you take that next step, there's absolutely no way the universe can show you the second or the third one. But so
Yeah.
many people are too afraid to take step 1 because they can't see step 2 and 3, but it's just not how it works. And so
Yeah.
to refine your question a little bit, or my answer to your question, is that I think that our curiosity and our joy are the ways in which the universe guides us. And so when we're unhappy, what can be very difficult in times where we're struggling, maybe we're in depression or something like that, which I struggled with for many years. When we're in a period like that, sometimes it can feel very difficult to see any joy anywhere. Everything can feel so hard. It can feel so heavy. But it doesn't have to look, let's say joy is a scale of 0 to 100. You don't need to be looking for 100 everywhere and going, I don't see 100, so I have nowhere to go. If you're at a 10, look for an 11. If
Mhm.
you're at a 10, look for what step moves me in the direction of 11, 12, 13, 14. And you start making those incremental improvements by starting to follow that curiosity, follow that joy, because ultimately I believe that love, whether in the form of our joy, our gratitude, our just feeling like we're in our dharma, in our purpose, I believe love is the way that God or spirit or the universe, whatever you relate to, it's the way that that force helps guide us. Like, what are those breadcrumbs? How would spirit tell you your next step? Well, they would plant this really beautiful seed of a good feeling there: joy, love, gratitude.
Do you have examples of your clients of breadcrumbs, like to be very concrete, like some different examples? What can it be for people, really?
Yeah, so I've been a personal development coach since 2013. And before that, I had my own personal training business. So I've been working as some sort of coach, with one-on-one high-level athletes, actors, founders, for a very long time. And oftentimes, I'll work with them when they're in some sort of transition. And in that transition phase, they're looking around going, what's next? And the what's next is a combination of needing more data. So you need to go out and get curious to get more data. But also, there's often a next level to how they perceive reality that's available at that time. And so I'll give you an example of what I mean. So, the saying that we hear a lot in personal development is we create our reality, right? And the
Ah.
idea that you are the creator of your reality as opposed to realities happening to you. And I assume most people listening to Harvest Series have heard it or believe that they create their reality. But I wonder if people can really remember when that shift truly occurred, where
Good
we went
question.
from, man, like I'm a victim to my circumstances, to I'm in control of this and I can shift it. Because that one awareness shift will change the way that you look at all of life. And that's just one example. There are so many different levels to awareness that can shift, and each one will unlock an entirely new world that was always here. We just couldn't see it because we didn't have that awareness. And I look for, when I work with clients, I look for the places where they're ready to expand into a new lens of awareness? And also, what are the evidence and the examples from their life already that indicate what's available to them? I have a client right now who loved, he for when he was growing up, felt incredibly outcast because he was Asian American in a primarily white school, and he just didn't feel like he fit in. And then, like years and years later, decades later, he has become someone who organizes a lot of community activities. He's the one who plans events for all of his friends and get-togethers, etc. And he's become so good at building community. Well, when we started working together and he was thinking about what his next thing is going to be because he's about to sell his company, well, I just pointed out that his whole life has already been revealing to him he's a community builder, because
Mhm.
our mess becomes our message. Often the wounds that we deal with as children are the problems that we learn to solve and then become solutions that we can offer to other people. And so because it was a wound for him, he naturally started doing it. But because he naturally started doing it, he never saw it as an opportunity for something he could do professionally. And so now he's organizing very intentional events, bringing people together with personal development at its core, because he's now gotten so in love with the personal development journey. And it's sort of like we go on this scavenger hunt and we pick all these different ingredients up as we go. And then it's time to make a beautiful meal from what we've gathered along the way.
Is it very often that your source of pain will become, if you become aware, your source of joy? Like in this case of your friends?
Yeah, I think that to me is the definition of karma. I believe that as a lot of people think of karma sort of as a soul scorecard. You come in here and you've done bad things in the past, so you need to be punished or whatever that sort of idea is. And that's not how I view it. To me, karma is the particular curriculum that you as a soul signed up for in this lifetime. And so, in order for me to, I'll use myself as an example, very personal example. Um, my particular karmic wound that shows up over and over and over again in my life, even now as I'm about to turn 40 years old, is that I'm a bad person and I've done something wrong. Like
Mhm.
inherently, there's something wrong with me and I did something bad. Now, what I've had to do is come into a life where I would be molested when I was 5 years old, for example. And that is a particular wound that, because I took that on, and is very common for victims of sexual abuse to blame themselves, I took on, there's something wrong with me. I did something wrong. It was a repressed memory for 25 years. So I moved through life for 25 years thinking that I had done something wrong, but I couldn't even see where that came from. And so I just created the story. There's something inherently wrong with me. And what that did was lead me on a journey where I went into suicidal depression. I had a lot of issues. And I had to learn how to love myself, like really deeply, because I hated myself. I thought there was something wrong with me. I rejected myself. I thought God had abandoned me in that moment. And therefore, there must be something on a soul level that is worth God turning his back on me. And so there was so much hurt and pain and self loathing that learning how to love myself was a really long journey, but now has arguably become my biggest message. My poem, You Are Who You've Been Looking For, is a poem about self-love, and it's the most viral poetry performance in history. It's been viewed over 250 million times. So, yes, I think that what we go through as our wounds, as we heal them, we now become walking medicine for others to see that that's possible. And we know how we did it. And therefore, if we choose to, we can share that medicine with others.
Wow. Uh, how did you become? You said like a lot of people might be knowing about awareness at Harvest, but yourself, did you make the journey by yourself through book? Now you're helping people to get in the good state of mind to be able to notice the breadcrumbs. But yourself, did you do this journey? Did you feel a bit alone that you had to do the work alone, or did you have a mentor, a book, or what happened to you?
I did. I had many things, but the my awakening, really, the real shift for me happened through ayahuasca and plant medicine. I'm a big proponent of plant medicine. It's played a major role in my life, and anytime I'm asked the question, I give so much gratitude for the medicines, whether that's ayahuasca or iboga or San Pedro or peyote, any of these ancient medicines that have been used for so long. Uh, that was they were major teachers for me and still are in my journey. And if you can't tell, I have a very type A high achiever personality, as you saw with the story of high school and like, let me figure this out and win everything. And I brought that mentality to spirituality and esoterics. When I became aware, because I was basically atheistic, I was raised Catholic. I never found a connection to God through the religion, and I just didn't believe. And then in January of 2013, I sat two back-to-back ayahuasca ceremonies, and my whole world changed. But I still brought that personality, and I went, wait, so if spirituality is real, how do I be really great at it? Like I need to understand the rules. I need to understand what happens
Be
here.
great or the best at it.
Exactly. I'm going to be the best spiritual person ever. But I wanted to understand it, and so that looked like hiring a coach. I'm a coach myself, and I'm the first person to tell you that I believe that everyone can benefit from the right coach in any area of your life. And so I hired coaches, I went to retreats, I listened to podcasts, I watched YouTube videos, I did everything I could, read books, everything I could to just like a sponge absorb as much knowledge as I could. And here's the key, because I think that could be a dangerous trap where it's just all knowledge, 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 but not integration. I was very blessed to be in a relationship with a woman. We were together for 10 years. And while I was going through this, she was going through it as well. And so we were able to integrate together because we had the opportunity in real time to apply with each other and share what we were learning, and therefore spot it in each other and say, hey, this is that thing you were telling me that you didn't want to do anymore. And be able to have someone every day there to be on that journey with was a major game changer for me.
Okay, so you were co-mentoring each other in a way with this love, right?
Yeah, she is an incredible coach herself, and we led retreats together. We went to retreats together. We would literally, and I'll be completely honest, how it even started. So at the time, January 2013, what life looked like before that was I was a personal trainer. I would come home, I would smoke weed with my girlfriend, and we would watch Grey's Anatomy, or we would watch reality TV. We're just, just kind of, I think, average, normal, whatever.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
yeah, totally. And then after January 2013, I was still a personal trainer and an actor in Los Angeles. And I would come home and I would smoke weed with my girlfriend. But instead of watching mindless shows, we began watching spiritual YouTube channels. Like we just began, we would still do everything else the same, but we would just start consuming this information together, and we would hit pause and we'd be listening to a podcast like this, the Harvest series, and we would pause it and we go, whoa, that just blew my mind. So is what she's saying is this, and this? And you're like, actually, I think she's saying, but, and you're like, oh, cool. And we would talk about it and we'd integrate together. And I think that this is, if you want the fastest path to growth, it is to surround yourself with people who are able to call you forward and be in the dojo with you, be in the training and the arena of that with you. And so I know for a lot of people that I speak to that start to have these awakening type experiences, they're terrified because no one around them is on that journey. And
Yeah.
so they're worried if they start talking to people about it, that they know, their family, their friends, that they'll be rejected. And again, this comes back to courage, which is one, anyone who's listening to this, you might be surprised that some of your friends and family are on this journey already and they just haven't said anything to you because they're scared. So, first of all,
Interesting.
and two, I think that one of the most beautiful gifts we can ever give to other human beings is invitations. To be an invitation for someone to come on this journey over here, that's all I'm doing. With this podcast right now, literally, Rose, what you and I are doing is this podcast becomes an invitation for people to go on a particular journey. And all of my one on one coaching clients, my retreats and events, it's just, this is an invitation if you want it. And I think when we create invitations for other people and let them know that it's safe if they want to come, to me, that's a really honorable thing to do, because we are the ones also risking rejection by creating an invitation and having someone say no.
I think it could be a good title for the podcast episode now, an invitation to shine or an invitation to be yourself. What do you
Exactly.
think? It reminds me when you're talking about being with someone who's going through the same awakening, spiritual awakening than you. Like when we advise people, like to learn a new language, to date someone from this language, speaking this language, it will go even faster.
Mhm.
My question is about to shine. So when you do the first step, like is being in the right state of mind, have the courage to be yourself, looking at the breadcrumbs, then you find we have identified few steps. And when you find these breadcrumbs, how do you make it and you find the joy in this? How do you shine then? What are the steps to become like really good at it?
Well, it depends on what that is, but the, like, when you say good at it, you're meaning just embodying the lessons that you're learning? Is that the question?
No, like for a specific talent, for example, you want to be you want to be a photographer. You have this feeling; it's been in your dream, something you repressed long time ago, and then suddenly all the signs are coming to you. You want to be a photographer. So how can you be sure it's this? It's your journey, and what would you advise? Like if you have another job on the side, like what would you go full on or step by step? You keep the two. And
Yeah, yeah. So, um,
how do you know you have
this is
talent? Because you can like something and not be a bit realistic, like you're not so good.
absolutely. So now you're getting into a really great exploration here, because um, I am someone who believes in craft, like having a craft. And I think that this has been lost in a lot of today's world, where people are looking at quick wins and convenience and wanting to um, get results without having to put in the work. And uh, in many ways, we see this exemplified in society with fast fashion, fast food, right? Factory farming, the sweatshop labor for our products. And I see factory farmed content all over the
Hmm.
internet. Like,
Yeah,
what is happening right now is you have people that are just teaching you how to make content. Just
yeah.
put it out. Just put out content. But we've lost the idea of craft. somewhere along the way. People, I get a lot of people that reach out to me and say, your content's so good. How can I make better content? And
Hmm.
I think to myself, wait, but what are you putting in the content? What is the craft that's going in it? And so I love that you're asking this question, because there is no replacing time and repetition. And there's no replacing falling on your face over and over and over and over and over and over again. And there's no replacing just hard work. That's just
Hmm.
part of
Yeah.
it. And so people look at me, and, I'm an international keynote speaker. I'm brought into corporate organizations to lead workshops, keynotes, and people see the images of me on stages and they think, oh, wow, that's so cool. I want to do that. How did you do that? But very few people are interested in knowing that, oh, by the way, I trained for 15 years as an actor, and I did professional theater and countless hours of acting classes. By the way, I've studied script writing, read so many books on it. I've written multiple feature length films and short films. When it comes to content, I used to direct music videos and edit my own short films. And like, there's so much work that has gone into what allows me to do what I do at a high level. And I love when I have the opportunity to share that, because I'm here to discourage people who are looking for the quick win. I
Yeah.
actually
You don't have
want
the
to
chat GPT prompt. You don't have a chat GPT prompt.
no, I want, because the thing is, if what I've said doesn't discourage you and you get excited at the thought of learning how to be a better speaker, and you get excited at the thought of figuring out how to make your own content, and you get excited at going on that journey, then there's something there for you. There is. And I think that is bringing us back to this idea of the breadcrumbs of joy and curiosity. When you ask the question about, say, someone wants to be a photographer, that's just the current breadcrumb. All that they can see is, oh, I have a curiosity for photography. But if they now say, well, I need to be the best photographer in the world or it's not worth it, they're cutting off the idea that maybe what they're meant to do is start to look at the life through the lens of photography and light and that sort of thing. And then they're actually meant to develop some digital form of light altering art and they innovate, because they discovered AI mixed with their love of photography, and those two things blend into something completely unique. And now they're an innovator of some form of AI photography art. I don't even know. I'm just making that up. But I think similarly, if you have a passion or you have a curiosity to learn the piano, it doesn't mean you have to be a professional piano player, but maybe learning the piano will teach you music in a way that now has you start to produce music. And now you start to produce music. And as you start to produce music, you realize you love making jingles for like kids shows. And next thing you know, you have a career making intro music for Disney Channel kids shows, and people love your music and your kids love it. Like, I don't know, but if we get so attached to what it's going to turn into before we even start, I think we deprive ourselves of the opportunity that life is giving us to discover, to be in discovery along the way. And so my advice to people is be in a state of curiosity, be willing to discover and explore. And when you find something that you actually love, work your ass off. Go all in on becoming the best at that thing that you possibly can. Treat it like a craft, approach it like a professional, and that will reveal those next steps, whatever those next steps happen to be.
The unfairness of this world is sometimes you're teaching a lot of creatives. the unfairness is some people are very good at marketing themselves, and some people who are very gifted are totally sucking at it. So, and they're very good. They found their passion, but they're not good to, they don't want to, it's almost like they don't want to shine. They don't dare to shine. So what's your advice? Is it like public speaking, or what's your advice to these people?
Well, I think the first piece of advice is more of a soul searching question of what do you actually want? Because in society, right, we idolize the people in front of the camera. We idolize people who are on the stage. We idolize the entrepreneur like Steve Jobs. And at the same time, that just by definition and the laws of nature, most people on this planet were not born to be the ones on the stage or the CEO of a company, right? Just like if you think about ants or bees, there's most of them are supporters. Like that's the laws of nature. You need mostly supporters. And I think that the problem is that we've made people feel less than if they want to be a supporter. We've made people feel like be a leader, not a follower. It's like, really? Always? Because there's plenty of people I actually like to follow. I enjoy if I'm going on like a hunting trip, for example. I don't know how to hunt. I don't need to be the leader. I want to follow someone else. And so I want to start there because a lot of people are saying, well, how do I get here? And I don't think they've stopped to ask the question, is that really what you want?
Interesting.
Do you really want that? Do you really want to be on stage? Do you really want the attention of a million followers on social media? I don't know. But if the answer is yes, and you're just scared, then the next step is to break it down into more tangible steps, because when we get lost in the big vision, it can feel overwhelming, but there's small steps. As an example, okay, I do want to have millions of followers on social media. I'm excited to be on podcasts, etc. But I get nervous when when I'm on camera. Okay, so a small step to that is just to start putting out a story on Instagram, like a very short story, talking to the camera every day for a month.
Drop
Just
it.
start there.
Yeah.
Boom, easy. That's the starting point. And then it might be, okay, now that I've done that, what's the next step? I'm going to do Instagram lives, and I'm going to do those every 3 days or twice a week or whatever. Okay, the next step, I'm going to do an in-person experience. I'm going to host like 20 people, and whatever that is, breaking it down into what is it I can do right now that is a step in the direction of my goals, that will get me better, that will help me work through the fear. And I think that the more we can break it into those small steps, the less intimidating it becomes.
Okay. What do you think about manifestation? We touched a little bit of this together earlier, but do you believe in manifestation? If yes, what is a mechanism for you? And sometimes we have this caricature of someone, and I find it like a bit weird, to be honest, of someone saying, if you want more money, start spending it and buy expensive clothes, and you will become this rich person. So, what's your view on this, on manifestation?
Yeah, so I've spoken about manifestation a lot actually, because a lot of people have heard this story. I was paid $1 million for a 1 year one-on-one coaching contract, and that happened in the span of 5 days. I was in a moment shown like, okay, this is going to happen. Like this is going to happen by the end of the week. And 5 days later, I had $1 million transferred to me in one lump sum for a coaching contract. And so when people found out about this, they went, that's not normal. how did you manifest that? That's crazy. That's an absurd story. And
Because you
so,
said it out loud before?
yeah. Well, I had someone on my podcast. So I currently have a podcast called The Creative Path with
Yeah.
Adam Roa.
Yeah.
Um, and before that, I had a podcast called The Deep Dive. And I had a woman named Marcy on my podcast, Marcy Locke. And she was known for being paid $1 million for her coaching. And it was something like in the community, people were talking about. And when I had her on my podcast, I said to her, how do you do that? Because I can tell in my body the idea of saying to someone, it's $1 million to work with me as a coach makes me uncomfortable. I actually contract to think about saying that to someone. I can't hold that. And
Okay.
ultimately, when she left, that bothered me. I actually was deeply bothered by the fact that I felt I wasn't able to charge that I wasn't worth that there was something inherently in me because it's just a number, right? It's a perceived value. And I was aware that I didn't value myself that much. And I thought there's no way anyone would value me that much. And it bothered me. And I set out on this journey of, okay, well, how do I become someone that's worth $1 million? And less than a year later, I was paid $1 million for that coaching contract. So there is this whole journey that I went through to become that. But this is at the crux of it because it is a law of attraction manifestation, whatever we want to call it, which is that the universe is always giving you what you're asking for. So that's something I want everyone to understand. The universe is always giving you what you're asking for. So the moment you say you want something, you are either a match to it and it shows up very quickly, or you are not yet a match to it and the universe gives you the next steps to become a match to it. And so the confusion that people have around the law of attraction and this idea, like, just let me just believe it and say affirmations over and over and put post-it notes all over my mirrors and whatnot, is that they are potentially missing the sign that the universe is giving them of where they're not yet in alignment with the thing they're asking for. And so a lot of what I do as a coach and what hopefully everyone here starts to get really good at is using your reality as the actual feedback mechanism and knowing that the universe is trying to give you what you're asking for. So if it hasn't shown up yet, if you're saying, okay, I haven't found, I want to be worth $1 million, great. And suddenly I notice that when I'm spending money, I'm feeling like, oh, that's so expensive. Oh, that's so expensive. Oh, I can't spend that. Suddenly, the universe has made it blatantly clear that I'm existing in a lot of fear and contraction and scarcity in the subject of money and in the frequency of money. And so I now have an opportunity to adjust that. That's the next step. Whereas most people say, okay, I want to be worth $1 million. And then they think about how expensive everything is and they don't have much money. And they're trying to override that with affirmations instead of saying, no, the fact that I can see how much scarcity I have is telling me this is the thing that gets to shift. How do I shift it? That's the next question. How do I shift it? And that journey is the one that will lead you to the manifestation of what you're asking for.
Okay, interesting. So congratulations for your contract.
Ah, thanks so much. It was a while ago. It was many years ago, but I appreciate that.
Good. Yeah. Thank you, Adam. I think this is almost the end of the interview. Where can people, before I'm asking you the harvest of the day, where can people follow your work?
Well, I have a lot of online real estate, as I like to say. So my primary platform is Instagram, which is adam.roa, ROA. I have a YouTube channel where I put out my podcast, The Creative Path. And you can also listen to that on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever. And then I have a newsletter that goes out every week, as well as my website, adamroa.com.
So the harvest of the day, I've got two questions. What does courage mean for you?
To me, courage is feeling the fear and doing it anyways. I believe
Wow.
that you can't actually have courage if you don't feel fear. And I think people get that confused, this idea that, wow, this person has no fear. No, you wouldn't respect someone who has no fear. They're like, it's just like walking to the refrigerator right now. I don't have fear of doing that. That's why it's not inspiring. What makes it inspiring is knowing that that person has fear, that person had to overcome fear. And that strength to overcome the fear is courage.
Wow. When was it that you had to show the most courage in your life? Or if you prefer, you can choose one question, the other, or you can take the two. Or when was it when you noticed in your life someone really showing courage next to you?
Oh, I feel, well, I touched on moving out to Los Angeles to pursue an acting career. That period of time was a huge leap of faith. But I would say, um, to me, leaving my 10-year relationship, the one that I mentioned earlier in this podcast, uh, that was because there was nothing inherently wrong. We weren't at each other's throats. We weren't fighting all the time. It just was something where we both felt like it had run its course. And we had a lot of people that were very angry, believe it or not, very angry at us because they felt as if we were almost um, like throwing, like spitting in the face of love. Like, who does that? There's nothing actually wrong, and you guys are just ending it while the rest of us are out here haven't found that type of love yet. And there was just a knowing that there was now more growth available outside of that relationship than inside it. And I think that for both of us, so to answer your question about both, I think it took a lot of courage for us to trust this feeling that it was time to leave the only safe place that I'd ever known for myself and for my heart. Because growing up, my house was not a safe place. My body, because of the sexual abuse, was not safe. I retreated into my mind and shut down my emotions for most of my life. And I opened my heart and learned who I was in so many ways inside of the safety of that relationship. And so to leave it, um, I think was for both of us an incredible act of courage and deep, deep surrender into trust of this spiritual guidance that we felt we had.
Wow. What a journey, Adam. Thank you so much for sharing it with me and with Harvest Series listeners.
Oh, well, thank you, Rose. I really appreciate getting to chat with you today. And thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thank you so much and enjoy Spain.